Hello, everyone, and welcome to another horrific review. I'm joined once again by Steve as we continue our look into the Hammer horror series with The Man Who Could Cheat Death. Released in 1959, the film tells the story of a scientist who discovers that he can extend his life by stealing the organs from living victims. This movie was made on a budget of £84,000, and for some reason, we don't have any box office returns for this.
Strange, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a strange entry into the franchise.
Yeah. The word was out that the guy who played the main character was actually a substitute for Peter Cushing. And Peter Cushing was supposed to play it, and just 6 days before they were due to start shooting, he pulled out because he was too tired after filming The Hound of the Baskervilles. And they tried to sue him. The studio, Paramount, tried to sue him, but he hadn't actually signed any contract to say he would be in the film in the first place, so they couldn't do anything. So I think it would have probably been a lot better with Peter Cushing in the main role. But yeah, so that's what I've read on the history of.
All right. Yeah, he's a strange choice, and
But all the Hammer fans were complaining because this Anton Diffrey or something he was called, wasn't it? His main sort of characterizations before that was playing Nazis in war films. So they thought it was quite a strange choice to replace Peter Cushing.
Yeah, he's a bit of a strange choice anyway. When you see his performance throughout this, it's a strange movie.
Yeah,
like I didn't. I think there's a reason why this one's kind of shoved under the carpet, swept under the carpet, and we'll forget this one happened, because it is not even the same tone. Like when you start off, it's almost like a rip-off of Jack the Ripper story, and with the mist, except they set it in Paris in 1890. But it may as well have been in the streets of London the way it's shot, and it just looks strange.
Yeah. The saying that, it was something else I read was they used to show two films in the cinemas. This one was actually the sort of B movie for quite a long time. So they'd show the main attraction sort of thing, and this one was the sort of B movie, and for quite a long time it was in the cinema. So whether that was because it wasn't doing very well as
the fact of no box office returns, because if it was successful, they'd be shouting from the rooftops.
Yeah. So the first thing that got me, I thought it said Paris 1895, didn't it? And then suddenly you had all these English-speaking, perfect gentleman type of, dialogues, and I thought, why didn't they just film it as though it was in Great Britain? Really, I know.
They did try to put on accents. We'll give them that, except Christopher Lee, who just couldn't be arsed.
Yeah.
I just get the feeling he couldn't be arsed in this film.
But it was mixed, wasn't it? It's, 1 minute the actor would be trying to put on an accent as though they were French speaking English. In the next line, the same actor would just be back to speaking their normal English accent. I just found it. I thought, it's supposed to be Paris. Why aren't they speaking like Peter Sellers in Pink Panther?
Yeah. They did have a couple of attempts, but like you said, it was just. I get the feeling this thing was rushed. It just has a feeling of being just rushed through to get over and done with. And Paramount normally Warner Brothers that would distribute it for Hammer Horror.
Yeah.
So it's also an interesting thing, Paramount getting involved.
Yeah. Yeah, it was strange. It's not the sort of. I only watched it twice. I can, I normally watch a film 3 times, and I only watched it twice because I thought it's not one of my favourites in the mix, and I can't even remember seeing it prior, even though I know I have. It's not one that's stuck in my mind.
Yeah, I have no memory of this.
Mm.
And I'd like to think I've watched all the Hammer horrors.
Yeah.
And it's just strange that this one popped up and then looked at it. Even the poster and everything else just brought no memories.
No.
And then watching this, I'm like, I don't remember this at all. And I've a funny feeling this was done on a rush just to get it finished. Maybe the whole thing with Peter Cushing started the works. Maybe that's why Christopher Lee's going around like he's in a bad mood the whole movie. And his buddy wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I just think it was swept under the carpet.
Yeah. I think it wasn't for.
Yeah, it was. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's we have a standard that we're used to seeing with Hammer, and this isn't it.
Yeah. But I think the thing that would have made people go to see the movie would have been the fact that they advertised it was a Hammer horror.
Yep.
And everyone would have thought, "Oh, Hammer horror! That's the new Hammer film," and they would have gone to see it. But if it was me back in 1959, I would have been quite disappointed with this.
Well, even now, watch the fact that we don't remember it. It's not in the memory banks.
No. What one did they bring out? What film did they bring out after this?
I would need to look. Give me a sec.
I'm just wondering whether they thought, "Oh my God, this film is terrible. Let's go back and film a Dracula or something like that."
We might have a Dracula movie next. Hang on. The Brides of Dracula's next.
Yeah, so
they've made this and went, back to the type. We need to make money.
Yeah, and if we want to keep Christopher Lee on our books, let's put him back in a Dracula role.
He was not happy in this movie. Like, you could just tell, like, even the bit where he's getting off the carriage, he practically threw his wife or his girlfriend or whatever that relationship was out of the carriage. Did you see her, like, practically shoving her out he steps out and he practically just wings her out the carriage.
He wasn't even the sort of person who was showing a sort of a bit of the fact that he wanted to be in a relationship with this woman. He couldn't have cared less about that, really. He was just like, yeah, okay.
He's more like an older brother or something, or like a relative, as opposed, just doing her a favor, taking her somewhere. Like, there's not his best role. Like, they could have got anybody to replace Christopher Lee in this movie because he really didn't. It was like he couldn't be bothered.
Whether he was disappointed that Peter Cushing wasn't in the main character, you just don't know these things, do you? But could you have imagined it with Peter Cushing as the?
I think Peter Cushing would have given it a bit more heart and soul. Yeah. Like, the guy that plays this, he's a wooden plank.
Oh, he's not a very good actor at all. Even I've seen him in a couple of the war films when he's played a German, and he doesn't even play a good German. But he always seems to get typecast as one. And I thought, why are you bringing in? I mean, I don't know what his nationality is.
I never looked him up. I had no interest in him, to be honest, because, like I said, he was completely uninspiring.
Yeah. No idea. So.
Oh, sorry, Janine. Yeah. Yes. whatever she was meant to be to him, because he really didn't give us any impression that he'd give it to us. Like, she is practically flirting with Bonet in front of him.
Yeah.
Like, it's telegraphing, like the signals are right there, and he's just like,
I just, yeah, I mean, there was, but there wasn't any chemistry either, was there, between the, you know, she was supposedly in love with him and he disappeared, but there wasn't any sign of a chemistry between the two, even though she was supposed to love him, and he didn't show any chemistry towards her, really.
He didn't show any chemistry towards anybody. He was just, like I said, he was a wooden plank, just sort of going through the motions. It was bad.
Yeah, Anton, he was German.
Mm-hmm.
Anton Diffring is a German actor. Was a German actor. Yeah. Filmography. Some of that. Yeah. So he was a U-boat officer, a sailor, a German soldier, second German soldier, East German policeman. So you get the point, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, he's been cast as a German.
It's like Craig Fairbrass, always the East London gangster, and
yeah.
Who do you call that muppet that was a school teacher, and every role he's played has been a teacher or a headmaster? And he's always on game shows and stuff, and that, you know, he just, you know, they're jobbing actors at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Not someone to lead a Hammer, because Hammer has already, like, at this point, this far into it, Hammer's established his name without a doubt.
Yeah.
And they're an event to go and see a Hammer movie.
Yeah.
So just to throw that guy in.
Surely the thought would have gone, who's Anton Diffring? You know, unless you knew him from playing a German in a war.
Yeah, well, that's it. Obviously, back then, 1959, people didn't have the resources that we do. You can't just go tippity tap. You know, sure, there's newspaper archivists. Remember, that was a job right up until the 90s.
Yeah.
Where someone would go through newspapers and for a particular company and actually cut out the articles that related to that company and make a scrapbook.
Yeah.
You know, and use a scanner to put it all together. Like that's right up until the 90s.
You used to put them on those bloody machines, didn't they? That you could look up on, and you had to wind the handle and everything.
Yeah, they were fun. Yeah. So, yeah, people wouldn't have associated them with anything. Just, who's this guy? Why can't he act? Why am I not feeling anything?
Yeah. Where's our Peter Cushing?
You would feel, because there's meant to be, I think, a tragedy with this character too. He's not supposed to be blatantly evil. You know, I think that was a moral quandary of this.
Yeah.
And you don't get any of it. You just get him. Like, even the whole thing with the reception, it's just so contrived. I just couldn't, like, this Janine appears while Bonet's showing off his latest work of the model he's currently with.
Yeah.
But you've like, he's supposed to be a bit of a ladies' man, but you don't get it.
No, he's not a romantic in any way, is he?
No, and then he's high society, but you get no charisma from him. And then you have Christopher Lee walking in with a face like a smacked arse on him, just like going, what the hell am I doing in this movie?
Yeah.
I hate my job, sort of thing, because that's the impression I'm getting from him.
And then you get Bonnet's mate, what was he called? Comes in like Admiral Lord Nelson, doesn't he, with his hand?
The professor? Until he needs to do something, and then he takes it out of the sling, and it works perfectly.
Yeah. Here's me hand.
The only time you see him trying to act, the guy that plays Bonnet, is when he's taking the elixir, and of course when he opens the safe, and it's got the light, and it's all bubbling and doing weird stuff, and he does like a Dr. Jekyll type thing, trying to play that role.
That's exactly what I was thinking, was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde the potion in the same sort of jar. You know, it's yeah. It's yeah.
Do you know what I spent most of? I watched this last night and I was taking the notes. I spent most of the film looking up the thyroid gland.
It's in the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not down.
Not in the belly. Not in the right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this is 1959. Parathyroidectomies were performed from 1925 onwards, so they were done in the medical. You know what I mean? They're removed. There are two pairs, and they can be removed as a pair, with one still intact.
Yeah.
It is a medical procedure where the patient lives, because if it gets overinflamed, it could be removed, and the whole thing just did not make sense.
No, I mean down there it's the liver, isn't it?
Yeah, your liver, your appendix, your large intestine.
Liver on one side, appendix on the other, and I thought, why are they cutting down by the liver? I thought,
did they want to do the prostate? Is that what they were thinking? But obviously they can only take that from women or men, so wouldn't explain the lady victims. It's
strange.
But when you think that sort of level of research is available, you know, you just go and ask a doctor.
Yeah.
Especially it's 1959. They're setting it. You know, like we've seen the two Frankenstein movies. You sort of had a believability that Baron Frankenstein was on a journey and going into unexplored territories. And it almost tied a bit into modern science. So you could see where he was going with it.
Yeah, definitely.
This made no sense. And even as a layman, I'm watching this going, none of this makes sense.
Because if you look at Frankenstein, to a certain degree, today they do complete procedures, you know, a bit like the Frankenstein, where they, you know, they put things like organs on, don't they? And even hand transplants, you know, they complete them. Whereas the man who could cheat death, you wouldn't see him thinking every 10 years I've got to, you know, put a new thyroid in order that I live.
Plug a new one in, they click.
I suppose they do it with heart valves, don't they? Back in the 80s, when they first started doing heart valve transplants, they used pigs' valves.
Yeah, they started taking them from pigs, and now they've got like a synthetic
one. They only had a certain amount of time that they'd last, so they had to initially they had to have the people back in after a certain amount of time.
But once again, it makes no, in terms of this, unlike 1959, people are aware of medical science. It's not like we're in the Dark Ages. And plus, Grey's Anatomy was available. You know what I mean? People had encyclopedias and Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
And if they were curious, like me, like back in the day, you would have went to the library and looked something up.
Encyclopedia Britannica, remember that one?
I used to have those.
Yeah, used to have the salesman come around the door trying to sell you Encyclopedia Britannica.
That was that was brilliant back in the day because you were able to go and flick through and find out things. And
I love a book more than looking it up online. I prefer to go to a book.
And even the library, you know, go to the reference section. You know, I used to do that all the time when I looked up stuff.
Yeah.
Great. But like I said, people would have looked this up if they were curious.
Yeah.
They probably just didn't enjoy the movie because just the fact that this is not a well-known one, the fact that the budget didn't give the box office return, I have a funny feeling this lost money. And the fact that it's directly followed by a Dracula movie means that the studio knew that it wasn't doing well.
Yeah. And they had to get something out that the people would know, hey, there's a new Dracula film coming out. And because it with The Bride of Dracula, I don't know what the takings were on that one, but it would have, you know, made this one, The Man Who Could Cheat Death, sort of forgettable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, once that came in, you know, 20 movies later, this is forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not one of their best, not at all.
And the whole strange thing with Janine, like, oh, Professor, would you mind taking the boyfriend away till I have a dalliance with this young lady here? No problem. And he just meekly goes off as well. Like, you would have thought there would be a bit of tension between them. Like, hey, that's my girl, or a bit of possession, or a bit of chest puffing or something.
Yeah.
Like, Christopher Lee's an imposing figure, even when he's basically a background character in this, but he's a big man, and like he steps into the room and he's almost stealing the show, even by standing in the background.
Yeah.
He just has that imposing figure, but here he acts like a puppy dog.
Yeah. Did you see his hair though? It kept moving place. Whether he was wearing a wig, I don't know, or whether it was the way they shaped his hair. But 1 minute it would be there, next minute it would be back there, and whoever the makeup artist was needed shooting.
You would think, I don't understand why they didn't take one photograph at the beginning when they're doing makeup for effects, and then have it in the dressing room, and there's your template.
Yeah.
Or if they couldn't afford photography, though this is 1959, so portable cameras were available, but one picture, have it hung up, and there's your template, or have a sketch artist. Okay, scar here, big arrow. Like, that's the way I would do it. You know, I'd have a big arrow, right? This goes here, that goes there. It's the same when I'm doing my stuff. I have my little notes of, right, this resolution, that resolution, so I'm always keeping a consistency.
Yeah.
No, but it seemed to be that a bit of the Wild West that is, you know, I'm an artist and didn't care about consistency.
Yeah, cracking. Yeah. Plus, you get into the realms of he was trying to find a doctor then, don't you, to perform the operation, and he was going to some really dodgy characters.
That doctor he was speaking to, like, oh, I just have a little sniff there before.
Yeah.
Hitting the mic there.
Here's me scalpel. Oh, it's rusty.
Yeah.
I would have preferred the original doctor. What was he called again?
Professor Klein or something. He was a German.
Yeah,
German name or Belgian.
His dodgy hands rather than the guy with the rusty skull.
Yeah. So basically, the story is every 10 years, Bonnie, he's 104 years old, and to keep living, he has to basically extract elixir from the thyroid gland from a still living host. So it has to be removed while they're alive. Now, apparently, he's been doing it using a dead one and reanimating it or something. They wasted all this time on Janine and that, which didn't really go anywhere, instead of actually sticking to the science. Back to Frankenstein, even with 2 movies, they still focus on the science and, you know, the actual procedure, and people were just in the way.
Yeah.
Where this guy it was more like a soap opera wearing a horror suit.
Yeah, but the backstory of it would have been nice to actually see a bit of how they came across it, because you just got introduced to the fact that the doctor and the Lord Nelson guy, the professor, had invented this way of him cheating death, and there was no actual story as to how they invented it and what needed to happen, apart from the fact that he needed to have an operation every 10 years, and he had 4 weeks if he
just
didn't have the operation. You know, how did he know he had 4 weeks?
And the whole thing with the watch, do you remember the whole overacting with the watch? It must be exact. I need a new one.
Yeah.
You just need to wind it properly. You take it to a watchmaker and get it fixed.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
And plus, why are you waiting to like the 6-hour mark? Why aren't you doing it like 5.5 hours or something?
Yeah.
Giving yourself, I don't know.
And why is he relying on the guy to tell him the time? I said, it'd be like me. Colin, can you ring me at 10:30, please?
And then my fault if it didn't, because whatever.
Yeah. Because if it was me, I'd be there going, oh shit, I forgot to ring Colin at 10:30. Colin, I know it's 2:00 in the morning.
And I'm too busy going, it wouldn't last a week.
You don't rely on someone to, even especially
if you've done this. If you've done this for 100 odd years or 70 years or whatever it was, you would have it down to a pat that you wouldn't need anybody. You'd have fail safes, and plus you wouldn't be so haphazard. This guy is so amateurish.
Yeah,
he's a doctor in essentially
something. He's
wasn't Victorian era, but Paris anyway. You know what I mean? 19th century Paris, and there's no bodies.
Would you really trust him to be a doctor? I don't think so.
No.
Stick to the sculpturing.
Oh, that was a whole strange thing as well. Just the girl he was showcasing off, he takes her sculpture and puts it in his lab and then sends it somewhere, and that's like a whole plot point. I was just scratching my head going, what is this?
Yeah. But when the copper came around and said, "Oh, I believe you've done a sculpture." Oh, yes. Unfortunately, it's been broken, and everything. And you would think, and then Christopher Lee sort of says, "Oh, well, and he stops, doesn't he?"
Mm-hmm.
Any good policeman would have gone, "Sorry, what were you going to say?" And he didn't do it until like another scene, did he?
It was like a day or two later, after. But I just love the fact as well, even when the inspector arrives, the Benet's resident, and they were all about to leave.
Yeah. Oh, we'll come in as well.
Yeah, we'll just come in as well to this private police conversation. You're kind of like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Let's all go in.
They just changed their mind and get involved in something that didn't have to.
Yeah.
I felt a bit like Cluedo, Professor Plum in the library with a candlestick.
Yeah.
It really did feel like a soap opera, as opposed to a Hammer horror film.
As I said, it really felt like a radio play that had been made into a film, but I couldn't find anything to say it had been a radio play. But I imagined, even with the dialogue, which I thought in any case was quite poor, I felt it was something that could have been aired on a radio, on the old the old Radio 4 plays, and where the guy used to stand there at first saying, "Welcome to Radio 4, and now we have such and such." What was it? The Pathé radios and things.
Oh yeah, that was a French one, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I just had this feeling that the script could have been done on a radio, because you would have picked up the same feeling of the story as what you were watching on the television.
Probably would have got a better story, to be honest, because this was not played well whatsoever. And also the whole thing with Benet and the professor and his lies, and they're completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was trying to achieve.
No.
Like, especially with it, right? Okay, here's the statue, no bother. Like, it didn't make any difference. He just held a reception and all that kind of stuff. What was he playing at?
Yeah. And that professor, one minute he was saying, "Oh, he's been my best friend for decades." The next minute it was a case of, "Oh, you're going against what I say, I'm going to kill you." Yeah.
Once again, no. If Peter Cushing had been in this role, I think he would have got a bit of nuance or something, or conflict.
Yeah.
But this guy was just dialing in the numbers, going through the motions. I think everybody else was as well. It was just, even Christopher Lee couldn't be arsed. That's the one, you know what I mean? Christopher Lee at least attempts to do things or attempts to play his role. And this, he was just like, what am I doing in this movie?
Yeah, because when he first entered with the girl, it was a case of, oh God, what am I doing here?
Yeah, and
and even his dialogue was very
stunted, and
it
nothing.
wasn't the usual Christopher Lee style of dialogue where
I'm going to say something that might annoy you.
Yeah.
But I think he gave a better performance in his brief cameo in The Wicker Tree that he did this entire movie.
You're probably right.
I think he cared more in that brief cameo of 15 seconds in the Wicker Tree than this.
Yeah.
He felt like he wanted to be there, you know, but this, he's just like, I don't want to do this. Why couldn't I have got out of this? Damn it, I actually signed a contract. I'm stuck.
Yeah. Oh God. Why didn't I do what Peter Cushing done and chuck the...
But this is to date Christopher Lee's only bad performance I have any recollection of.
Yeah.
Because it was a bad performance, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think they all are bad performances. I think Christopher Lee must have felt that he was hitting his head against a brick wall to try and make the film watchable and make the best of a bad script and a bad story and bad dialogue. It
looked bad.
His dialogue wasn't exactly brilliant, you know, in the script that he had to say. And
better dialogue in the Amicus films, and some of them were like ropey.
Yeah. But it just seemed like you know, what do they say? The script was made up on the back of a matchbox.
Yeah. What is it?
And it was done by Jimmy Sangster. And, you know, the usual team was behind this.
I think this is Paramount. I think Paramount is the factor here that's changed it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Something else I read. It opened earlier in the USA before it got opened in Britain.
Mm-hmm.
I read somewhere. So, yeah. Because it was actually made at Bray Studios in just outside London, isn't it? Which they've used before.
Oh yeah, like these places don't get filmed on location, and they absolutely have to. You know,
it was filmed in 1958. I'm trying to remember what I read now. And it opened in the USA before it opened in Britain. So I think there must have been some...
That would have been a Paramount thing as well.
Influence from Paramount with the sort of American type of thing. I'm not sure were Hammer Horrors, you know, big in America.
Well, it was Dracula, usually used Warner Brothers have been their distributor.
Yeah.
So Hammer obviously Productions make the movies and that, and then the tie on. I'm gonna see us today now. Actually, it's more of a convoluted mess, but there's always an international distributor. So country of origin where it's made, and then they get an international audience that go into one of the bigger studios.
Yeah.
And they just lend their name to it, but for some reason, Warner Brothers haven't got involved.
Strange one. Did Warner Brothers be good to see if Warner Brothers came back for...
I'll be keeping an eye out for that now, because that's... Normally I don't notice these things, but when you get a massive tonal shift, then you start looking at what was the change. They said same writer, same director, practically the same production team, but this thing looks different.
It's a bit like the old you know, the musical artists, where they change record labels, and the new record label doesn't act like the old record label does. If you take the Pet Shop Boys, they went from Parlophone to X2, and they just didn't kick it off with X2. I think it was partly their own label, and they've gone back to Parlophone. And I think it's their way of doing things. You know, they've got this set way of publicising the film, and suddenly they've gone different with Paramount.
It's like hitting a speed bump.
Yeah, and it's hit a brick wall, and you know, whether they'll go back to.
Actually, a more recent band, there's a band called Skinned. Now they're like an electronic sort of rock, and
Yeah.
their songs are based on true crime.
Yeah.
And they had a producer called Tallyho, and that's who did all their videos for their first 2 albums.
Yeah.
And they ditched them and moved to somebody else, and you can actually see the total shift in their videos, and they're not good.
No.
And actually, they're not. It used to be one of their people were like logging on the minute a new video dropped that were getting millions of views. You know, it was just like an event.
Yeah.
And then they changed from their producer, and they got the new one, and you know, gone. And it's interesting. It's you only notice these things, like I said, when you see something different presented to you on screen.
Yeah.
It's something hits you, and you go, "This isn't the same as."
Because I recognised it immediately, because the first thing that comes up is Paramount, and you think Paramount doesn't do Hammer, and you begin to think. First thing I thought was, "Am I watching the right film?" You know, that's the first thing that hit me. But yeah, you just don't know what goes on, do you?
That's you know, it wasn't as open. It's more open now because people can dig in and like and go on the internet. And there's more commentators than ever. You know, we'll get a bit of news and we'll talk about it. Where there was none of this level of discussion about movies there was back then. So people would have just left being confused. Where now, if something happens with a movie and it doesn't look the same, you just go in this, and there'll be people like us talking, you know, that might have found a bit out.
Yeah.
And then you can get your sort of curiosity sated. Like, oh, right, that's what happened. I knew something wasn't right there. But back then, people would have just left the cinema going, that wasn't good. Didn't enjoy that.
No. I'm not sure how many companies there were. I suppose you had MGM, didn't you, and Warner Brothers and Paramount, and
pretty much they're monopolies now. You know, that's the thing. They were the first companies, but they grabbed onto the monopoly. And that's, you know, that's basically Hollywood. Now that's part of why they're in the trouble now, because they've got too big. They've no competition. They've no challenges. And that's why movies today, you know, it's one of the factors why movies today are absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Like, we're saying this is a bad movie, but I think we're saying it's a bad movie in comparison to what would normally our expectations of a Hammer movie.
Yeah, that's right. We're not
still
setting up against the ones today.
Yeah, you set that up against anything today, and it's still going to be a better movie.
It's a brilliant movie. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
the latest Beverly Hills Cop film is a Netflix film. Yeah.
What purpose would that movie serve?
It's the purpose of Eddie Murphy getting some money in it.
Yeah, what's he pushing now? He's pushing 70, isn't he? Bound to be.
I don't. He starred in a Christmas movie, didn't he? It was awful.
I flipping don't know. Sure, or did they do another Bad Boys movie as well, or did it just come out?
Just come out. It's just in cinemas now.
And you're just like, anymore. I mean, they did the 2. Oh wait, hold on. This is a 4th one.
Because my son Gareth is a big Bad Boys fan, and we went to see the previous one, and we were both like, "Oh my god, this is terrible." So he's not even bothering going to see this one. He's because I said, because he's been up with us for a a few weeks. I said to him, should we go to the cinema and see, the new Bad Boys?
Yeah, just
Don't
that's
want to
me
waste
pretty
my
much.
£10 on a, seeing Bad Boys.
Yeah, God, I wouldn't even waste my time. Didn't even watch the last one. No interest. I didn't see what value it brought.
I did have to ask.
63. All right, Vermont. Well, he's no young pup that we still run around as a detective solving crimes. Do you know what I mean? That just doesn't. They're desperate. They're bringing out. You know what I mean? They're going fossil hunting because they've nobody with any name or weight behind them. All this new bunch of actors and actresses have no name behind them. They're forgettable.
It's like we said before. You've got the top actors that are all suddenly going to leave us. You Clint Eastwoods and your Gene Hackmans and it's like, I suppose it's a bit like some of the youth today where when I came out of school, I had a paper round. I worked from the age of 14, paper round, and I was while I was at college, I was doing work, and the youth of today, they just couldn't care less, or some of the youth, not all of them. There are quite a few who do put their career first. And I think it's the same with actors of today. And if you look at footballers, 1966, when England won the World Cup, wasn't it?
I think you've mentioned that once or twice.
Yeah, you played for your country. You didn't care about earning 20 million every time you kicked the football. But the footballers today, they're in it for the money. And they couldn't care less if they played good or bad for England because they're still getting their 20 million every time they kick a ball. And I think actors is the same. There are a lot of actors out there, a bit like authors, that there are several unknown authors who are better than some that have got contracts. And it's the same with actors. There are a lot of jobbing actors or unknown actors around in the area, Los Angeles and in places like that, who could probably do a lot better than
Funny enough, there's a video coming up on Shay Rant's channel, and we were talking about Christine. And I don't get the pedestal that Stephen King has been put up on, because in effect he's had 7 or 8 ideas that he's recycled throughout all his novels.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the same idea, regurgitated, changed a few characters' names, and it's the same story. We had a bit of a chat about that when we were going through the movie. Like, he's only got a handful of, like, good stories.
Yeah.
And everything else is just...
Misery is a brilliant film.
Misery, Christine, The Shining,
Yeah, all the.
And I like Kubrick's. Brilliant. I know he hated Kubrick's interpretation, but I thought it made his story better.
Yeah. I didn't like the second.
Dr. Sleep? I didn't mind that.
Perhaps it's because I never read the book. Whereas The Shining, I read the book. So.
No, I've never read the book either. It was, of course, absolutely fantastic. Love that.
The original It on the film with
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
That was closer to the book. I've done a deep dive on the channel between the book, the TV miniseries, and the 2 movies.
Yeah.
Each has their own merit. But like I said, there's a handful of stories, and then the rest is just bloated, regurgitated guff. Yeah. But that's what happens. You look at the front covers of his books. His name is bigger than the title of the book.
Yeah.
And it was just like it's like a fast food chain, But that's what happens with popular media. But that's why I try my best to champion independent creators. It's try and give somebody at least a bit of a leg up if I can just do an interview or give somebody a shout out, at least gets a few more readers, then I can do what I can. But I don't have the power of a massive studio with multi-million budget just on advertising behind me. I can only do what I can do.
Yeah.
So you can see, though, Hammer was getting, like I said, Hammer's built its name. It's now, when you think of horror, you think Hammer. And in this stage, 1959, they're established. People couldn't think of horror without putting Hammer in front of it. They were synonymous. So you can see the bigger studios wanting a wee taste of that. And you can see the likes of Paramount maybe coming in with a sweeter deal for the particular movie.
Yeah.
And trying to pull the rug out under their competitors, and maybe Warner hadn't signed off on something. So Paramount swooped in, but the two mindsets, the styles don't fit, and it's obvious throughout this movie.
Because if you, like we said, Hammer, you don't have to mention Hammer and you think horror.
Yeah.
There's companies,
even though they've done tons of movies
today that have tried the same thing, like Blumhouse. They've tried to think Blumhouse is horror, and it just hasn't taken off like that. People,
because they're safe, they're playing it too safe. Like, if you think back in the days, this wasn't safe watching. Like, this did push boundaries.
Yeah.
And it did push the limit. It was terrifying back in the day. The ideas, like, this was never seen before on screen. If you think of the Universal monsters, they were so tame compared to Hammer.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see the Universal monsters as horror movies.
No.
They're creature features.
If you take Dracula, you actually got engrossed in the film, and you actually believed that these things were real. You as kids, you used to play vampires in the playground, and you used to say, "I'm playing Dracula." No, I'm playing Dracula, and just the thought, it used to make you think that these things were real. Where these days, it's Cole says to me he wanted to go and see the new Quiet Place movie.
I saw an article about that, but I don't know. I wasn't blown away by the second one.
I said, "What's it about?" I said, "Do we have to sit in silence in the cinema?"
The first one was good. The first one was something different.
Yeah.
And the second one just didn't measure up, in my opinion, anyway.
I didn't see the second one. I think I slept through the first one. But
no, the second one had something about it. It was interesting. It was an interesting concept.
Right.
But the end of it was a bit strange. I still can't remember. It kind of got a bit into way towards the end. The second one was just a monster movie. It wasn't really anything inspiring. I don't see what a third entry into this franchise is going to add.
Yeah.
I saw an article about it. I was going to do it, but honestly, I'm just not even remotely interested.
Well, I'll let you know, because I've volunteered to accompany you.
You take one for the team.
Cinema.
Oh, God. Then this gets strange. So obviously, Bonnie and there's not really much of a plot in this either. It was just things happened.
No.
That's why this one's difficult to talk about.
It would have been nice to know how they come across this experiment. If you take Frankenstein, you had all the bloody smoke coming up and the things full of liquids and stuff like that, and you saw.
But you had Frankenstein and Paul with the puppy at the start, and the progression, and then the time
coming
jump.
in and going, "I can do this, and this is what I'm going to do. I've got this part of the body, and this one, it was just a case of they told you about it, and the backstory was, oh yes, I worked with you for many years on this, and you thought, but what actually? How did you come across it? How? And it
just felt like a soap opera. They spent too much time with the social aspect of this and the dalliances, and they were unconvincing. And then obviously Bonnie kidnaps Janine because he wants Pierre to operate on him. And just the way he went about it, like even shrugging off the professor, this guy's supposed to be 104 years of age.
Yeah.
And he hasn't got the brains he was born with. You know, he's supposed to be genius level intellect.
Yeah.
And yet seemed to be like, there's better muggers out there with more common sense and street smarts.
Yeah.
If he's supposed to be so charming and have the world sort of wrapped around the palm of his hand, and you know, just makes no sense the way they play it out.
And the other part is he was supposed to have left Italy when he left the woman in Italy.
Yeah.
And escaped to France.
Oh, that was another thing I looked up.
How did she find him in France?
Interpol wasn't created until 1923.
No.
So that was another thing I looked up, because I'm like, where's all this rapid data transference of crimes? Like, they can't even do it today.
Yeah, because the copper was saying, yeah, I've looked it up. Every 10 years he's
looked it up where
doing this, and
there were no, like, it was country by country, but Interpol wasn't created in 1923. There's none of this international borders and stuff. You know, people did go missing, and no way to tie him. It just, like I said, the plot was that contrived that you just couldn't get on board. What I always say, ground the reality before you accept the fantastical. You have to have the reality of the world. So they can't do the science fiction, they can't do the horror, because you're just going, none of this makes sense. Even the bloody gland. At least in the Tingler, it was a made-up gland.
Yeah.
But this was actually in Grey's Anatomy. By 1959, they could do parathyroidectomies. That was a bit of a tongue twister. I had to look that one up. But they could remove the thyroid gland. 2 pairs, they could remove 1 pair, you'd still live. So the whole plot of this, and the bit that Bonnie's landing on the table and taking his trousers off, like proper about before he got interrupted, you're like, where are you going?
Yeah.
That's not... What movie am I watching? This is about to change.
Christopher Lee supposedly done the operation, and he said, surely, Bonnie would have felt the effects if he had done the operation. But Christopher Lee said to him, try getting up and walking around. So he got up and started walking around thinking he'd have the operation. Well, it's like, you'd feel the effects of a successful operation, wouldn't you? If you hadn't had the operation, you would have still been feeling like...
No, apparently you don't feel the effects until 5 hours, 59 minutes later,
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't explain why, when he touched the other bottle, why the skin burns.
Yeah.
None of it makes any sense. It's all just all over the place.
Yeah, he put his hand over the...
Yeah, and it burns them. We'll meet her later, and she's still got the scar. So is he a vampire?
She's gone nutty, isn't she? She's gone loopy. Why did she go loopy?
We don't know.
Because no one explained that. No one explained, the hand burns and you go loopy. If you take Dracula, if he bites you in the neck, you either become a vampire yourself, or he's just sucking blood out of you, and or you die, But I just didn't get it. I didn't get it.
No, like that was the... Let's be honest. I made the decision, but didn't perform the operation. That was the only clever bit in this entire movie.
Yeah,
but it was too little. You know what I mean? It was too little to try and save this movie.
Yeah. It's got quite a good rating on IMDb,
You're not allowed bad ratings in IMDb, because it's very... Amazon, they hate 1-star reviews and they ban people's accounts and all, and they hide them. I do not trust Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb scores for movies because it's so corporatized. It's like the 5-star review for Uber and stuff. If you don't give a 5-star review, they say, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And you're like, what is this? Or,
So
you know,
eBay, you're not allowed to give a negative review right away. You've got to try and sort it out amicably with the seller first,
yeah.
and then give and they
But this
can.
culture doesn't help. You know, if something's bad, it's bad. But it's this fear of, oh dear, this didn't work. You know, how are you meant to learn?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's this strange culture of, you know, everyone must be wrapped in cotton wool and everything must be fluffy and nice and wonderful in these rose tinted glasses you have to wear. It just doesn't make sense. It's not the world. It's not art either. You know, there's things that are objectively bad.
Yeah.
But the whole end of this just felt like, oh right, we need to wrap this movie up in 5 minutes. What do we do?
It just suddenly the ending was all over, wasn't it? In a matter of, it just seemed to, he caught fire and bang, and then
Well, he was
suddenly,
already dying, so he wouldn't have survived
yeah,
anyway.
no,
All Janine had to do was stand at the top of the stairs. He'd have fallen into bits of ash or whatever, and that would have
yeah,
been it. But Crazy Girl throws the lantern just for effect, so we'll have some
mm.
fire.
And you could tell he was wearing a fire suit because his body size suddenly went from
Yeah, doubled up.
quite thin. He was quite a thin guy, wasn't he? And suddenly he was, whoa. And and you could tell also that he when you were looking at his face that he was wearing a mask over when his eyes was coming out. Yeah.
Oh, it never mentioned his eyes either. Like the strange thing where his eyes change color.
Yeah.
And I just thought flipping the Incredible Hulk TV show did a better job. This was awful.
His skin color, I thought I was watching an episode of Dickinson's Real Deal. You know,
Oh,
David Dickinson's color on his face.
Is he still kicking about?
I don't know. No idea.
I don't know. I don't do the BBC.
No, it's ITV.
Is it?
Dickinson's Real Deal? Yeah.
I thought he was a BBC one.
He was on Bargain Hunt, but he got sick.
That's what it was. It's the same thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just does the same. That's his one job, and he does it. God, yeah, this was bad. It's like they've ripped off Jack the Ripper and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, mold those two movies together, and created this abomination.
Yeah.
Because you can see the influences from both those tales.
Yeah.
But he did none of the good bits. It's like that. They sort of started half here. Okay, right, we need to stop. And we need to jump over to something else. And they threw a soap opera in as well.
Yeah.
Like, Christopher Lee's character Pierre just...
Why did he keep the liquid as well in a safe? I mean, if he was the only one that was taking it.
And why so dramatic?
Lots of things just didn't make complete sense. And
the professor could just look at it through a magnifying glass and tell that the organ was from a still living host.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked when he said, well, it's your fault. I was waiting for 4 days for you after killing one person. And you didn't turn up, so I had to kill another one and wait another 4 days, and you didn't turn up. And
sorry for having a stroke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
It was just daft.
Yeah.
Like, you don't talk to... If you're relying on somebody to keep you alive, you don't talk to them that way. That's a bit silly.
But it's like I said, he was supposed to have been his best mate for decades, you know, and
not a hint of concern that he had a stroke.
No, that's right. I mean, the first thing you would do is, "Oh my God, you've had a stroke. Are you all right?" sort of thing, and you know.
But when the professor, like, he had his arm in the sling, but every so often he'd just be taking it out and using it like normal and put it back in again.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
You're like, I don't think strokes work that way.
Yeah, Christopher Lee, wasn't it? You saw Christopher Lee. He, oh, it's my hand, you know. Oops.
Yeah.
Put it back.
I gave up. I think that's the biggest crime in this movie. There's no coherent plot. No. Always going from scene to scene, disjointed scenes, like what we expect from today's movies.
Yeah. It feels like like I said, the plot and the script was written on the back of a matchbox. Really,
Yeah.
And the things, it just didn't come together, and script and dialogue was terrible. You know, I think it was miscast totally. I think Christopher Lee should have stayed away. I think Peter Cushing.
Yeah, he added nothing to this movie whatsoever.
Peter Cushing would have been glad that he didn't do it. He was probably sat there when it came out going, "Thank God I didn't."
I dodged that
with
bullet. Because obviously, The Hound of the Baskervilles is an absolute classic.
Yeah. He actually, according to the resource that I looked at, he actually said he was too tired after just coming out of filming The Hound of the Baskervilles, and so he pulled out at the last minute. But and they tried to sue him, but
didn't happen.
Well, he never had a contract. So.
It kind of shows when stuff like that happens before a movie even begins, you know it's doomed.
Yeah.
Whenever has it went right? When the studios start fighting with the actors and the directors, and court cases happen. God, what was that one? He took him to court over residuals. The Mad Max one.
Oh, right.
Who's it directed that? Frank Miller? No.
Don't know.
But basically, Warner Brothers tried to shaft him out of residuals, and then he took him to court. That's why the prequel thing only came out this year, and because so much time had passed, it bombed.
Yeah.
But anytime they start and there's court cases with the people actually involved, like imagine going to work and you're in the middle of a court case with your employer.
Yeah.
Well, you're not, your mind isn't on the job whatsoever. You're watching your back and you're just like waiting for something to happen. It's never leads to a good place.
But some of these actors back then, you just didn't upset, did you? You shouldn't have gone against someone like Peter Cushing. You wouldn't go against
George Miller. Yeah, was my next guess.
Yeah.
Here's the Miller.
I know these days they'd probably get blacklisted, but back then you had the strength and force, didn't you, with some actors.
Well, those two, you just have to hear those two in a movie and they'll sell it.
Yeah.
Like one of the ones Cameron I did ages ago, Horror in the Orient Express.
Yeah.
Or was it the Orient Express?
No,
the Horror Express, wasn't it?
Horror Express. Yeah.
The Horror Express, sorry. Where you've got Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing just playing off each other. Like Christopher Lee's just the straight man. Peter Cushing's the rogue. And then you have, just for good measure, Telly Savalas thrown in just for some random chaos.
Yeah.
Towards the end. But the fact those two were in a movie, that would have been forgettable. You just had to hear those two guys were in a movie, and that's it. Sold.
Yeah.
Seats filled.
Yeah.
You don't mess with that sort of talent.
Oh, no. But I think if Peter Cushing had said, "Oh, no, I'm too tired to do this," really, his professionalism would have told him, "But I've got to do it." But he must have read the script and gone, "No, I'm definitely too tired."
I'm suddenly fatigued.
Yeah.
And he probably rung Christopher Lee up and went, "If you can get out of this, get out of it.
Get out." Shit, I've just signed.
Yeah. Why can you ring me yesterday? 4 days I waited. Yeah, this is a bit of a disaster.
Sorry, they've got some German guy who plays Nazis all the time.
Because he's German.
Oh, God.
Brilliant. There you go. That was and just goes to show as well, we're not looking at these through rose-tinted glasses or nostalgia. The movie's what it is.
We're not biased in any way.
No, yes, Hammer Horror always holds a special place in my heart. But if a movie's bad, a movie's bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was just all over the place.
Yeah.
Like we've seen better, like the Hammer horror TV show, Hammer House of Horror
Oh
TV
yeah,
show,
yeah,
had better episodes than this movie.
yeah, definitely. But,
Tales from the Unexpected had better episodes. The Twilight Zone had better episodes than this movie.
I remember the theme tune to Tales of the Unexpected.
Dun, 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 bum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum.
Class tunes.
Yeah. Back when TV was actually interesting.
Oh yeah. What was that other thing I used to watch? It was a man. Oh, I'm trying to think. I'll have to think of it. It's it's gonna get me now. Supernatural type of thing. Half hour it used to be on.
Can't remember.
It's gonna get me. I can't even remember the actor's name, but his picture's there.
It'll hit you about 3 o'clock in the morning. You'll be like, ah.
Yeah.
No, but anyway.
Yeah,
bit of a shame.
Sad that it was a bad movie for Hammer horror, but it's one that it's forgettable, really.
Yeah, it's a drop in the ocean.
Not one that I would watch again. I can watch the original Dracula over and over again, the Frankenstein's over and over again. This one, if someone said, "Let's watch this," I would go. I'm going downstairs, read a book.
Yeah, or there's some paint drying. I'm going. Yeah. Not a good entry in the franchise, but hey ho, it was going to happen. You don't. Not everything is going to be a hit.
No,
that's the joy of making stuff, and considering the fact these guys we're putting out like 2 movies a year.
Yeah,
like they are a production machine. Back in the day, it was going to happen.
Yeah,
but things can only get better. We have The Brides of Dracula next.
2 weeks time.
Yep, and that'll be fun. Back to some Christopher Lee goodness. God, I haven't seen this one in ages either.
Yeah. You know which shop Dracula shops in, don't you? Next.
Had to be one, eh? And on that happy note, because I think we've sort of beat this to death. It's like not much to say about it. It's just I think there's more plot in this review than the actual movie. But there you go, Steve. Thanks as always, mate. Always fun to go over these, whether they're great or terrible. And it'll be Brides of Dracula next, so we'll get that queued up. And just easy to say, until next time, keep updated with the channel, do the typey clicky things, and remember to keep it creepy, keep it horrific.